Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Equation Live. I'm your host, Maurice L. Wilson. Thank you for joining me on another Wealth Wednesday. Very excited about our episode today. We're going to get into a hot topic in the year 2025, which is if you own a business that does business with the government, how do you secure government contracts in a different and new administration, to put it mildly. And I'm definitely bringing on some special people today to kind of answer that question and help us kind of navigate the new paradigm that is the federal government. Also want everybody to keep a lookout. We'll start doing things on Sunday live as well, Strategic Sunday. So keep an eye out for that. And I want to start by welcoming our guest, Tarita Lewis. And she is the founder of GovCon, CEO and president of Government Contract Support. And we also are going to have someone that does business with the government. I'm going to bring him on later. But he does a lot of business with the government, and we're going to have a great conversation about government contracting. So without further ado, let me introduce Tarita Lewis. Tarita, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me. And when we were doing a little bit of the research for the show, I found out that you are indeed based in Washington, D.C., and you're a Washington, D.C. native. So that makes you perfectly suited to navigate the rigors of federal government. You get to see the projects approved and in some cases done in your own backyard. Tell us about your journey. What inspired you to start GovCon Support?
So my journey, I actually was a government employee, federal government employee, got started in government contracts probably around 1997 or so. And then I jumped ship and became a contractor back to the government doing government contracting. I did that from probably 1999 all the way up until 2025. Okay. And providing support to various federal agencies here in the DC area, which we call cradle to grave, meaning I did from pre-award to close out in government contracting, procuring anything from products to services, which could be IT, staffing, you name it, I procured it. And then I saw that there was a gap in the market where small businesses wasn't getting the services that they need. There's a lot of consultants out there, and unfortunately, small businesses, micro businesses, wasn't able to get those services. And being that I had the expertise, being in government contracting, I started my own business. Initially, bidding on my own government contracting, and then supporting other small businesses, government contracting shop, being a fractional contract manager. And what that looks like is negotiating different types of agreements, NDAs, teaming agreements, subcontract agreements, making sure they're in compliance, making sure they meet their deliverables, things of that nature. And then I got involved in doing the application process for GSA schedules, women-owned, 8A. 8A is, there's like what they call set-asides, which is women-owned, service-disabled vet, 8A, veteran-owned, and hub zone. Those are certain designations you can get where contracts can be awarded to you not on a competitive basis. It can be awarded to you on a sole source basis, meaning the government can say, hey, I like you, I like your price, I like what you got, and issue a contract. So because I saw a gap in the GovCon space for small businesses, hence why I started government contract support.
Okay. So you just roll right into your aha moment. You always hear about this aha moment. I kind of have an aha moment, but it's financial services, so it's not going to set the world on fire. But in your line of work, it is great that you were able to take something that people kind of assume is pretty rudimentary and cite a gap. And how long ago was that when you kind of made the break from, working with the government?
So 2011, I started my company. 2011 was the first time I got my initial contracts. Starting out, my initial amount awarded was 500K. And it's all about relationships, and that I got that because I'm being very transparent of a relationship I had.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you in like an all-white suit stomping the halls of government in DC? Like, how do you work on your network? How do you keep that going in the kind of 2011 when Facebook was still really new to this all virtual world? Like, how do you nurture those relationships to keep that network?
So I'm very active in a lot of different organizations. I try to stay active on LinkedIn. There's an organization called National Contract Management Association for government contracting professionals, which you call contract specialists, contracting officers on the industry side and in the government. So that's an organization. I'm not involved in it as I would like to be, but I'm an active member in the organization. And also there's another organization called CCAB that I'm a part of, which is for small emerging contract. I always forget with the A form, where I really love this organization because monthly they have a networking event and they bring in small government contractors and we get in like a round robin and we say what we're looking for, and what you're looking for can be exactly in the room, whether that's a teaming partner. You trying to for me, I'm pitching my services like, what do you need, things of that nature. So I really love that organization. So just networking and trying to stay in the know on LinkedIn. And I've subscribed to several different news articles, so I know what's going on, because every day with this new administration there's something going on that's affecting the GovCon space.
I heard something about that. Yes. So you're my hack. If I'm in the business of working with the federal government, you're my shortcut to keeping up and knowing what's going on. Um, I'm I'm going to start with your business still. So, well, let's put that to the side. I want to get to some of the meaty stuff that I know people want to know. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions small businesses have about federal contracting?
And it's funny because I just had a conversation with one of my cousins. He's in a line of work, and I was like, "You need to go after, government contracting." He was like, "They want you to price low." You know what I mean? That's a myth, right?
Oh.
So you have to price your product. The government is not in the business for you not to make money, because if that's the case, then why do it, right? We're in the business to make money. So you have to look at to make your price competitive, just like this GSA schedule webinar I'm going to have this month, and you have to do pricing. So you got to give the government, make them your most favorable customer, right? And if you could prove in commercially that you're charging, set prices, the government's not going to say, well, all right, that's too high. You just have to negotiate, you know what I mean, and make the government your most favorable customer. So that's a misnomer that, you got a price low to play in the GovCon space. If that's the case, you have the Lockheed Martins, you have the Northrop Grumman, these big 500 companies. If they weren't making money, they wouldn't still be in business.
That's true. That's true. I think it's the Microsoft and Amazon were going after, I think, cloud services, and it was a multi-billion-dollar contract, and I know they weren't lowballing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got a good point there. So like, you work with a lot of founders, entrepreneurs. What separates those who succeed in this space from those who don't, or just stall out?
If I started out, it's about relationships, right? Okay. Building these relationships with the different parts of the government. So you have the contracting officer who signs on a dotted line, say, yes, you awarded a contract, go be happy. You also got a contract specialist who pretty much probably administers the contract, right? Mm-hmm. And which people probably don't know, the contracting shop itself has no budget. They don't have any budget. So they're being funded by the program office. So you need to get to know who's in the program office that's in charge of that particular opportunity, and get to know the core, which is the contract officer representative, because that's who's going to be evaluating that opportunity if you win, signing off on your invoices to get you paid. So it's about building relationships with the right people and building those relationships early before that opportunity hit the street, right? Get to know, because there's a gazillion of government contractors out here. So how do I know you exist if you don't build a relationship and say, hey, I see you got a gap or you need these services and we can do it, and make sure your solution is the best solution. Not that you're the highest price, but you got the best solution that's going to fix whatever that problem is for the government.
All right. So it sounds a lot of like private business, right? Where you can run all these commercials and all that stuff, but most businesses are not name brand. Most businesses are known by people, right? You know, it's kind of like you got your favorite restaurant, you got your favorite
Right.
handy person, what have you, landscaper. All right. So you said something, since we're talking about misconceptions and the actual business owner. I said something. I said, are they even giving out contracts anymore? Because I thought that was done. And you said something genius. I think you said the government has to give out contracts to keep their budget. Like these organizations is not like a big government G, and it's just like the government means all these different departments, all these different people, and they want to have the ability to spend. And so they don't spend, they don't keep the money. So talk about more about that to give people hope that the government is still open for business.
So in this changing landscape, you have to follow the money.
Okay.
It's very key. And before I get into that, I just read an article this week where they're increasing the Veterans Affairs budget by 4%. You got to know that. That's your customer.
I thought they were cutting all that.
Exactly, right? So you have to follow the money. You got to follow the OMB. Where are they spending their money? So every agency is allocated money, right? And there's different colors of money. Some agencies got 2-year money. Some agencies got 1-year money, right? The color of money is different. So if a certain amount of money is allocated to an agency and they don't spend it, guess what Congress is going to say? Well, you didn't spend that $1 million we gave you last year. Why are you requesting $2 million this year? Right. So you usually see around the last fiscal year of the government contracting fiscal year, which is September, fallout stuff. A lot of stuff they trying to get ordered and procured quickly because they got to spend that money and get it allocated. Right. So people think the government not spending money, even though OPM, which is the Office of Personnel Management, issued a big contract to Workday, even though DOGE rescinded it. So, but that goes to show you they're still issuing contracts, right? But there is a lot of compliance now that the government has to go to get certain contracts approved. Like even something just came out, they got another 500, not 500, but Fortune 500 companies, they got to now prove why they should keep their contract.
Okay.
Right?
Is that Doge or is that the norm? Is that new or is that the norm?
That's new with Doge, right?
Okay.
So now they got to go defend why they should keep their contract.
And is it the last 5 days? What you did the last 5 days type of prove it, or
exactly? Why did we awarded you this $2 million contract? Why you need to keep it, and how is it benefiting us? So they have so many days to present that information to Doge.
And is Doge like one person? Because I mean, they're cutting staff.
I don't know who they are. I don't want to know who they are. I just wish they could and do what they need to do. Because there's a lot of reform. There's something called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. They rewriting that. So right now they trying to make government contracting more efficient and being able to procure things on a faster pace. So that's why I'm having this webinar on GSA schedule, because they're making GSA, which is the General Service Administration, the hub of government contracting. So a lot of people in the GovCon space, if they want to order stuff faster, the fastest way to do it is to use this GSA schedule, right? Because it already exists. When you get on it, they already negotiate your price. So they already know what your price is. So that was limit the procurement halt time, what we call procurement, what is the A? Acquisition lead time, right? So usually when you get a requirement, you have so many days to get it to each stage. And because they're using the GSA schedule, we're going to assume that they're going to use the GSA schedule more. Is going to limit that acquisition halt time.
You know, you're talking about something that I did want to get into, the GSA schedule, you know, government doing more business or just doing business. I want to bring on one of my clients, one of my good friends, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to, all the disclosures are out there. So Quinn Gilchrist, who is a very established lawyer, former military, he's a military veteran. I don't know if he's going to be on camera, but you're going to be able to hear him. And Quinn is having some great questions here, and I definitely want to bring him in. Quinn, you want to just, Quinn's on camera.
Okay, you asked for a photo, so I'm giving the people a photo.
Okay.
Yes.
Quinn, you have some questions, go for it.
Yeah, sure. So first off, shout out to Miss Lewis, I believe, right? So exceptional. I'm just listening to this stuff, like, record this, sell this in something. Wish I had known this before I jumped into government contracting. So yes, Maurice, as you mentioned, I was a former Army officer, a Army lawyer. I was a JAG. I'm from DC, Capitol Heights. Got into government contracting after active duty about 10 years ago. My wife was a staffing contractor. And so we opened up our law firm, worked doing regular stuff. And then after it was crazy, my wife said, why don't we do government contracting? And we've been doing it. It's been great. Wish we had known Miss Lewis back then. Holy moly. So I put out some questions out there for the people. One, because it's nice to hear it from someone with such expertise like you, Miss Lewis. You hit on big things that I know about, but it's nice to just hear it. The benefits of the GSA scheduled contract. I mean, it is a contract. It's not like when people first explain this stuff to me, like, oh, it's like a catalog. No. It's actually a contract. You're just getting task orders off of this thing. And what you said earlier, I've been reading a lot about, because I read all these executive orders every day, is, it seems like the government is going to issue more task orders off of that GSA schedule just because it's easy. Is that fair to say, Ms. Lewis, ma'am?
I agree. Because he making GSA the hub, and they wanted, and I just read an article this week's Evergreen, right? So they want to be able to do things faster and less procurement time. And that's the only way to do it, right? Because you get the GSA schedule. Let me just say that it's a contract with no money. Let me just put that out there. It has no money on it. It gives you the opportunity to go hunt, right? You still got to promote it once you get on there. So whatever agent you're pursuing, especially, before this current administration, whatever agents you was pursuing, you would make sure that's how they were pursuing it off of the GSA schedule, right? But now we're thinking, I'm thinking, I can't speak for no one else, that because he's making the GSA schedule, the GSA, the hub, that's the only way to do faster acquisitions, right? It cuts down the lead time to procuring items and services.
Thank you for that. And that seems to make sense. And to your point of September 30th, the end of the fiscal year, is only in a couple months. They got to spend a whole bunch of money very quickly. And the only way, to me, it seemed like they could do it is just issue task orders off of the GSA scheduled contract. So the big one I'm curious about, and this is like the $1 million question, and you got to have people like you, Ms. Lewis, that like know this stuff up, down. You can't ask lawyers, you can't ask me. You got to ask people that know this stuff. Is what do you see growth in this thing? I mean, and which agencies would you tell us not to go into? And it's tough because, like, I'm reading the news, I'm reading stuff, and it's like you need someone like you to have your finger to the pulse. You're in the city still. You're navigating through this stuff. You mentioned the VA, which I'm a veteran. I'm so glad to hear that. But what other agencies do you see growth, and which ones would you tell us don't even think about spending your money going after this stuff?
So I would say not Department of Education, obviously. Obviously, I would say follow the money. I don't have it up here. It laid out where he cut, how much he cut, and then I would go look at the OMB, right? It tells you what the initiative is for that agency is this year, right? If what you selling, they don't mention it, then that's not your agency, right? So you want to go and talk to the agencies. I hope the agencies have updated their procurement forecast. And the procurement forecast tells everyone what they're going to procure in this fiscal year, right? I know a lot of things got cut because of DEI and budget cuts. So if they updated it, you could go there and see what's coming out by September 30th, right? But like my initial thing, go look at the budgets. Go look where he cut. Look who didn't get cut. I'm gonna tell you who didn't get cut a lot. DOD. DOD should be your friend.
It is. We love DOD.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that these Miss Lewis, I mean, you're hitting a lot of gems on this thing. I need to pause it for the people so that they're listening, because I've said some of these things to Maurice over the years, but I didn't really explain it as well as you just did. So a gem you hit, which is the government is the only customer I've ever heard of, federal government, is that they literally tell you what they're going to buy in advance because they're forecasting it. And when you said that, you need to like put a footnote on it. Like, okay, the forecast, go there. So we do that all the time. What's been challenging on this round is that it's been like what was forecasted before January 20th and what happened after January 20th. I can't explain how many thousands of dollars I done called Maurice about to figure out how do I collect money that I had forecasted, right? So I am curious. What you also said here, I was listening to is recheck the forecast. That is a very important gem because typically you look at it early. You're like, all right, well, I know what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. After January 20th, whatever you thought was going to happen, you need to relook at it a couple times and see what's updated. So that is a very, very keen gem. The last one I was going to ask you about, and I want to take up everyone's time, is outreach events. I put that in the chat, but like back in the day, I would fly back home and I would go sit down with Department of Justice, DOD, whoever. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's talk about stuff. Do you think that's going to happen in light of what's going on now? What's your sense? What's your ears to the streets? Per se. Over.
They're showing up. I'm at probably most the biggest GovCon conferences, and I go on not only behalf of myself but my other clients. I went to the small business conference in Louisiana. Now, when I went there in February, because remember that was just getting right out of the fire, it wasn't a lot of government agencies there, which usually it's a multitude of them, I would say, right? So of course, some of the agencies now no longer have their small business office, right? You got to find out who in that agency, if the small business office is not there, I would still go to these events because you never know who you're going to meet. So there's a big conference every year here in DC called the Government Procurement Conference. I was there. And guess what? A lot of the local agencies were there. So I think it's not necessarily them not being at the conference. I think they're going to be at the conferences that are local because of travel dollars and this and that. Until they can fill out the budget, they don't have the budget to do the traveling, right? So that would be key. I think the local conferences, they're going to be there. Or I would definitely, if the small business office is no longer there, find someone who can tell you these are the upcoming events. Are you going to have someone there? But not only that, there's free resources all day long where they have webinars all day long. How to do business with GSA, how to do business with DOD, how to do business with, and these agencies are on these webinars, right? So if they're not at the events, you got to pivot, get on these webinars, right? And find out where they're hanging out at. Because they're hanging out, they still there.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to stop asking questions, but I had to ask one more anyway. We've had to pivot like a lot of businesses, right? And what we've helped a lot of our clients deal with is terminations for conveniences. I mean, I've had to deal with that all day. I had, terminate, then they don't, then they rescind it. Then what do you do with the bill? I mean, just had to navigate all those issues. One pivoting thing that we've even done in our firm is that we started going after, we only did prime contracting at the federal level, but we started going after local contracts because if you think about it, local, you have more opportunities. I'm in North Carolina now. You have the state. There's 100 counties in North Carolina. There's God knows how many cities. Well, if you could sell the same thing to them, move out. The process is a little bit different, but would you say that's also a good idea to diversify now more than ever? Over.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
if you build a pipeline and your pipeline was 80% federal government, you need to
It
go.
was. It was.
Now you need to go revisit your pipeline and make it 80% state and local. And guess what? It's 50 states in America. So you don't have got to stay in your state. There's 50 other states, right? I'm helping a client now. They are in the cloud space. So they don't have me focusing on federal. They got me focused on state and local. So now I'm looking at state and local opportunities that they can go after. So you have to know how to pivot, right? And things going to change, right? Just for right now, state and local probably is your best bet. Because right now you got to realize we still don't have a budget. We still under continuing resolution. And people, if they don't know, when you under continuing resolutions, there's no new starts. So that's why if you go on SAM.gov, you'll see a lot of source of sort, requests for information, but not a lot of solicitations because there's no new starts.
Amen. Maurice, I'm not talking anymore. Over to you.
No, man, feel free to talk because I mean this is not my lane. I really how Ms. Lewis got here. I thought of you when the opportunity was presented. Well, like I hear stuff like CER, like, so is there ever a budget? Because as a layman watcher of the government, I don't watch political channels anymore. So I just thought we never had a budget in this, but not just current, just in general. So do we actually get budgets, and that's how it works? When was the last time we had a budget passed?
So you get budgets, right? And it all comes down to who's in the House or who's in the Senate, right?
Okay.
And if they can't agree, instead of shutting up the government, that's what they tried to pivot. Because years ago they shut that. Matter of fact, they did it his first term. They shut down because they couldn't reach a budget. So they try not to do that. So that's why they do the continuing resolution. So you could continue work, but there's no new starts, right? In contracting. So you'll see where they might be. So my contract might expire. But then in my contract, there's a clause option to extend services for 6 months, right? So they might extend me up to 6 months until they could get a budget to go out and compete the new contract. And they probably could still go out and compete the new contract, right? But they can't put no money to it because they don't have a budget to do it. So the government, sometimes when they don't have money, instead of writing a bad check, they will give you incremental funding, give you a little bit here, get it, here until they get the funding, which they really don't like doing that. They like, if you bid it $100,000, they really want to put $100,000 on your contract, because if they overspend like a bad check, it's called anti-deficient. They don't want to be anti-deficient, right? So, and then they'll ask you sometime to work at risk. Usually the government is going to pay you. Now in this administration, but usually they pay, right? That's you work, you're going to get paid, right? And then that's another thing small business don't know, that there is a clause that's saying small businesses can get paid within 5 days of submitting an approved invoice. Your invoice got to be right. You can't say I submitted it and you didn't dot your R's across your T's, right? So that's another myth. They don't pay. You just got to know how to maneuver the different agencies to get paid on time, especially as a small business.
There's so many nuggets in this, Maurice. I gotta break down everything she just said, because I mean, somebody record this. You should be mailing this, and we should be throwing dollars at Lewis. All right, we're definitely. So one thing she just said. I'm an attorney. I've been working for the government for 20 years. I didn't learn until about 5 years ago. Okay. After I done sent hundreds of invoices to the federal government, and they always pay net 30. And she's right, though. They do. The federal government does pay their bills. I know the news is kind of funny, but they typically pay their bills on time, twice on Sunday. But if you're a small business, there's a way you have to request it, and you have to cite a provision in the FAR. But yeah, you actually are supposed to get paid earlier. I figured that out, Maurice. That's why I don't call you anymore about, hey, I need you to look at funding. No, I get paid well. I'm good. I'm good to go. The other thing you did ask, Maurice, which is, hey, when do we normally get a budget approved? We do. Like last administration, we did though. But what
Oh,
happens is what she's saying is there's a continuing resolution, and then finally, you do get a budget, and you get it around February, March is pretty much every year, except when this administration is
Yeah.
happening, and the government has to hurry up and spend a whole bunch of money. And that's typically, Maurice, when you look at my balance sheets, you wonder how I made so much money. It's because of that. That's exactly how it happened.
hey man,
So
since you getting in your business, yeah, your balance sheets did go up exponentially.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
because
yeah.
of
You
what Miss
level up.
Lewis
But
actually
since you're
is
gonna
saying.
say it, then I can confirm it.
You can confirm. Thank you. But what she's saying though, and that's why there's so many nuggets in what she's saying, and like I'm listening, I know some of the stuff. It's like, wow, that's she's exactly right. Is you have to know this stuff because government contracting, which I've like growing up in DC, everybody I knew was a contractor, this, that, and whatever. Is that for most of the people that pay me in the government look like Miss Lewis, me, and you, and I've said that to you 100 times,
Yeah.
and I'm from DC, it's like, oh, those are the people that are actually in control of this stuff. Oh, I love this, and then once they figure out I'm a lawyer, it's like, holy moly, and you look like me. I was like, yeah. So it's a good feeling if you find, and it's all about the other nugget she's been saying on this is those relationships. She is spot on. You have got to leverage that, and people pay for a Miss Lewis because you need that. You need people to kind of walk you through this dance. If not, you'll spend a whole bunch of money trying to figure this stuff out yourself. You'll get gray hairs like I've gotten over the years. Okay. But thank you, Miss Lewis. Holy moly. You are fantastic.
And the differentiator, I guess, for me is because I worked in those spaces, right? It's not like some of the other consultants, that's in this space that's trying to, that does what I do, right? I worked along the contracting officers. They're my friends. So I can phone a friend, right? And it's about relationships. And thankfully, all of my contracting friends are still working, right? So because this is a good and bad thing, I done supported over half the agencies in the DC area. Guess what I got there? I got friends there that if that's your agency, hey, let's have a conversation. You know what I mean? About, they can't. Here's the thing. The FAR recommends meeting and talking to industry. But once it becomes, it hit the street, they cannot talk to you because then it's procurement sensitive. Because they can't tell you what they won't tell me. Because then that's unfair, and that's going to cause a protest and make them have to pull the acquisition back and start all over. But they encourage talking to industry, right? And a lot of, you got to remember, the contracting professionals that are in the contracting shop are not the technical people. They just the subject matter expert in government contracting, awarding the contracts. Your program office is their baby. So they're the technical people. They know what their solutions that they need. So it's best to meet with the program office early in the acquisition cycle before it becomes a thing, right? That way it's fair game, right? And I'll say a lot of that also is with these big acquisitions where the Fortune 500 bids on. Most small businesses not bidding on $1 billion contracts where you creating some solution that's just technical that it's going to blow out the water. Most of us are bidding on program management, administrative things. Is most of us are not in the tech space. Some are. Don't get me wrong. Some are. And I did have a mentor tell me a long time ago that I'm going to have to pivot to really make some good money, get in tech, right? But it's like I said, it's all about building the relationships with the people early on in the acquisition process before it becomes procurement sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, most businesses. This is kind of like speaking of misconceptions from earlier. Most businesses are 1 and 2 man shops. I mean, we always like to think of scaling and all that stuff, but most businesses are 1 and 2 man shops. So to your point, I would imagine most government contracts are 2 small businesses. Maybe not on the size of the award, but the number of contracts are going to quote unquote small businesses. So you're absolutely right about that. There was a question from the audience where they said, well, Where does someone sign up for your class and research who is buying what they're selling? That was a question.
So that particular class, I haven't actually put that out. But I will. I'm gonna put myself on the hook. I will go live next week and show you how to find out how the government's selling and find out what your competitors are charging. Right. So if you want to unseat the incumbent, right, you need to see what they're charging. Not to saying you got to be lower, because of course, when we evaluate. So let me tell you. So when a proposal come in, what most people probably don't know, the technical part goes to the program people. Like I said, contracting is not technical. We evaluate price, right? We do the price analysis. Even before that, when we get a proposal, we do something called a pre-negotiated memorandum. So I'm going to take your proposal, I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to see if your price is fair and reasonable, based on industry standards, based on what we paid for it before, list price. We got several different places we look for to make sure your price is fair and reasonable. So not only do you want to know what agency is buying what you're selling, but you want to make sure your pricing is competitive. And you also want to make sure, looking at the criteria of whatever solicitation you're trying to bid on, because you got to price different. Your solution got to be different, whether it's a firm fixed price, cost plus fixed fee, contract, right? Your pricing strategy got to be different, right? So you gotta, it's a whole, like I said, I'll try to go live or share that information. So initially you want to narrow down what agencies buying what you're selling and how they're buying it. That's the first thing you want to find out, right? Then you want to find out who your competitor is, right? And your competitor, it don't got to be a bad thing, because your competitor is in there. Guess what? You could be their teaming partner, because they might have something coming up that they can't fulfill the need and can bring you on their team, right? But also, like, again, find out what they're charging, right? That's all information that's out there. It's not nothing illegal. And then there's something called a FOIA. You can request. They're going to redact it, right? Because they're going to redact the proprietary information, but you can request a proposal.
I mean, there's so many nuggets in which there's 12 classes, Miss Lewis, on that. Just I don't know if she just said one class, but one class, yes, capture management, got it. Yes, that's no doubt. But when she's just taught y'all about, it took me 10 years to figure out that second thing she just said, which is, Maurice, there's different types of, and everyone watching, there's different types of contract pricing. Like it's different. There's like four of them, but at least the ones I deal with. Labor hours, which is my favorite. Love that one. I hate firm fixed pricing. I hate it with everything I have.
Right.
All right. I hate it, but there's a strategy, and yep, you can do a whole class about that. I got it. There's firm fixed pricing cost. There's sometimes labor hours and cost. But the point of that is you need to know that stuff before you start spending a whole bunch of money, like I did. Just going after contracts and just, oh, I won my first two. I'm just going to spend all kinds of money on this stuff. Don't. I always tell my clients, don't be me, be better than me. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because each type has a different strategy, right? And each type comes with a different risk, right? When it's firm fixed price, we don't like it because the risk is on us. Because if I say I'm gonna do it for $100,000, guess what? And you finally, I can't do this for $100,000. Guess what? Oh well. So each type of contract has its own risk, and the government really don't like cost reimbursables, because guess what? The risk is on the government, right? So I got a whole chart that lays out the risk on each type of contract. So there got to be a strategy, right? And sometimes the strategy, I don't want to say you lowball, but sometimes the strategy where you're not, your profit is not going to be greater because you want to get into that agency, right? And then you get into that agency and you build that relationship and you go there and do really good and you get a superb CPARS. A CPARS is It's like on the job and you get an evaluation. So the court is going to evaluate you on your performance, right? So you want to get a good CPARS, and then you can take that around to all agencies. Look at my CPARS. And a lot of them will request that when you submit a proposal anyway, right? So sometimes the strategy is, well, I'm going to go in low and not make a big of a profit because I know this agency is going to have 5, 6 more contracts come out that I want to bid on, and I want to go in there and prove that I'm the best for this. I'm the best contractor for this opportunity, right? So everything is a strategy.
There's another class. I think someone in the chat said 12 classes. That's 13. CPARs, there's a whole class about CPAR, how you respond to them. You know, what do you say? Do you accept what they say? You don't like, I mean, so, yep, whoever, Miss Richard, 13. That's class 13, everybody. CPARs, yes, yes, and more yeses.
And you always respond. I don't care if you got an excellent CPARs. You always ask, you always provide comments back. So what happens is, the court is going to write comments on different ratings. I think it's quality, cost. Can't remember the other ones off of my top of my head. Schedule. I look at it every day. That's crazy. So they're going to rate you, and sometimes they don't rate certain ones, right? But they're going to rate you on in those categories. Even if you get an excellent, respond, comment back, always. And when you don't get a good CPARS, definitely respond and ask for an adjustment. Ask for an adjustment, because that's your report card. You don't want to take that home to mama and you got not satisfactory CPARS. And guess what? Every agency can see your CPARS. So now you telling this agency you the best of the best, and then they go get your CPARS. And one, if you didn't provide any comments, because it could be something that the agency did, but if they don't have no comments from you stating, no, that really wasn't the case, this is what happened, right? Your rebuttal. So you always respond to your CPARS. Always. Always. Whether it's good, bad.
That's nomenclature that I don't know, but I know the audience is in on it. So yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I mean, I thank Quinn for jumping in and definitely providing us with some good feedback. Thank you, brother. Quinn is like I said, military vet. Tarita, I heard that you're a veteran as well, or
yes,
am I
misreading? I did 10 years in the DC National Guard.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this is this is a really all-star cast who not only knows what they're talking about, as one of my coworkers say, you guys actually do this, which is very important. I mean, I have some other questions, but we've hit our hour. But I wanted to close and what is, I kind of know what you're going to say here, but what is one contracting commandment you could give every contractor that's working with the government? If you had to give them one commandment or one kind of piece of advice, I think I know what it's going to be. But
well, my one advice is stay out of the orange suit, stay compliant, be responsible, be responsive in a timely manner. Okay. Right? Okay. I just read on LinkedIn where something the SBA was asking the company to do, and they weren't responsive in a timely manner. So if the government asking you to do something, respond, be responsive, be compliant, and read your contracts. Right. Know what's in it and know what you're signing up for. Okay. And that's my big thing. What you don't know, hire somebody who do, right? Because there's a lot of fall clauses, and you're just saying, yeah, I can do it. And you're not even, if you don't understand what you're signing yourself up for, and then the government can come to you and ask you for something, and you can be like, oh, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know I had to do that. Right? Because there's a lot of reporting. Even when you get the GSA schedule, there's certain requirements you have to meet. Understand what you're signing up for. and read your contract and know your contract. Just like he said, contracts got terminated. Know what your contract says when it comes to termination and what your rights are, right? You get to submit a settlement proposal. And also, when the government don't pay your invoice on time, you get interest.
Oh, wow. Okay. Kind of like when you owe taxes. The government gets
exactly. Interest. So know what's in your contract and understand the regulations that there. And if you don't, get someone that can explain it to you, because you might be good at being an engineer, you might be good at being IT, but you're not good at government contracting, right? You submitted a proposal. You're not a subject matter expert. And I guess I'm not going to get in my sandbox about that. I lived it. I worked it. I'm not making this up. I've done supported Department of Labor, Homeland Security, TSA, Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Agriculture, GSA. So I've been around, and each one of them got, we have the federal acquisition regulation, but each one of them, guess what? They got a supplement. So I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm not telling you what someone else said. I'm telling you from experience. And that's why I charge what I charge, because I had to learn this, right? Even the fact of going to get a master's in contracts and procurement. I love what I do, right? Mm-hmm. So understand your contract. That would be the biggest pet peeve I have. Most people, you're just so happy you won and you sign on the dotted line, but also be able to perform because you don't want it terminated for default.
Right. No, I mean, we're regulated as financial advisors, and I know as we started to grow, I brought in a compliance consultant. I mean, early on, I kind of muscled through that stuff, and I just, but once I had a consultant, it did help me. And I get letters. We get letters all the time from state governments wherever we're registered, just asking questions, kicking tires, and I kick it over to my consultant, and she tells me exactly what I need to say. And it definitely is a shortcut because, we're all busy business owners. And so it's like, I can't wear that hat. And I'm an engineer, right? And so I formerly.
I wasn't picking on you.
No. Engineers are trained to be problem solvers. But that doesn't mean that we're God. It's like doctors. Like I know from experience, from fact, doctors at one point in society were believed to know everything. But I know from working with doctors, they stay in their lane. They don't know everything. Now lawyers may know everything, but doctors don't know everything. So much. Can you tell the audience how to find you, how to get started with you? I know you're going to get a lot of people looking out. It's on the screen, but feel free to just tell them the best way to reach you.
My website is www.govconsupport.com. I'm on LinkedIn as Tarita Lewis. I'm on Instagram as GovCon Expert. I'm on Facebook. My company page is GovCon Support. I have some group pages, but I can't think of the name of the groups on Facebook. But follow me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much on LinkedIn or Instagram. And if you already into government contracting and you want to know about the GSA schedule, you have 2 years of experience. You got your financials in order. Come join my class on May 21st.
What does financials in order mean? Because that's going to cut
that's
a
lot
of
Maurice, you see how he says stuff. I'm like, no, that means something. Yeah,
that
please.
Yes. Yeah.
So you got to have 2 years of tax returns, and then you got to have your balance sheet and your income statement for 2 years.
Okay. All right. I have those things because I have a 3-letter word called a CPA, and but when I didn't have a CPA, I didn't have those things. So that's.
And most small businesses, we work by the seat of our pants, right? And we're going to get by. But when you're doing certain things, especially in government contracting, they can ask for certain requirements of you to make sure you are financially fit to win this contract, right? Because you hear about the bad things in government contracting, they award contracts to people, especially when I think it was Hurricane Katrina.
Oh.
And these people just started a business and they got a contract and didn't produce. Now you're gonna look good in orange, right? So to prevent that, sometimes they do I'm not gonna go into it. They do a pre-award survey, right? To make sure you can perform the contract and you have the financial means to do so.
Yeah, the comment section is loving your orange suits comment, and somebody said something that even if you have these things, Jerry, I'm gonna mispronounce the name, so I'm gonna use her first name, but reconcile your books and records. That is something that people don't typically do until they get close to the September extension filing, for their stuff. But
and then how you different types of contract, how you post them are different, right?
Right.
So it's a lot, and that's why people think, "Oh, I want a government contract," but you got to be compliant because one, if you get a cost type contract, you got to have approved accounting system.
That's another class for the record. That's like 2 classes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna go all day. I'm at number 27 on classes, just so the record is clear.
So it's
Crystal
a lot.
in the comment section said you have 12 classes so far. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I mean, accounting is a big thing.
Yeah. That'll get you orange suit too. Play around with it.
Stay out of the orange suits. Quinn, why don't you tell the audience how to get in contact with you? I know you do certain types of law, but in case we have people in position to kind of use your services, feel free to talk.
Yeah, sure. Call Miss Lewis is the first thing I'm gonna say in this whole dance. But yeah, so my firm, the Gilchrist Law Firm PA, we represent agencies. We represent also small businesses, right? So Miss Lewis hit a lot of nuggets in this thing. So making sure that you're in compliance. So we do that. We draft teaming agreements. We review and advise on subcontractor agreements. We navigate more now than I ever thought we would. The termination for conveniences, holy moly, we are navigating those, helping and responding to small businesses whenever they get these things. But feel free to give me an email. It's probably the best way to catch me, which is jpg@jpgilchristlaw.com. Our website's up there, www.jpgilchristlaw.com. We've got offices all over the country, so we have them up there in DC, we have them here in Charlotte, we got them in Florida, got them in New York, we got them in a bunch of different places because we just do a lot of government work. But I start with, really, you do need a Miss Lewis. I mean, I can't express enough. I can keep you from making sure you don't get in the jumpsuit that she's been talking about, and also when the government exercises some of their rights and staying in compliance. But you can't even get really to me till you get to Miss Lewis first. So thank you for this again, Maurice. I had no idea it was going to be this impressive, but thank you again. That's all I have. Over.
I'm gonna she's not gonna like this, but I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. I work with a very great person behind the scenes, Kimmy Walker from Early Accountability. Yes, she has the website earlyaccountability.com. So if you're looking to get something done, I encourage you to go to earlyaccountability.com and check out what they have to offer. I cannot take credit, but it does make me look good. And if you're in business, you cannot succeed without hiring people. It's just not going to happen. You get to a certain level, but you will hit a wall. So if you're trying not to spend money, it's not going to get you over the hump. So yes, please use Ms. Lewis, Mr. Gilchrist, and look at Early Accountability. Of course, I am Maurice Wilson, wilsonwealth.com. I want to thank the audience for joining this Wednesday. This has been a very, very good podcast. We will get this out chopped up and everything for everybody to enjoy. But I encourage you as your first step, if you're in government contracting, to reach out to Ms. Tarita Lewis at govconsupport.com. It's going to be tough to follow you up, so I don't know. I may take a break next week. I may take a break next week, but we should be back next Wednesday with hopefully something as impressive as this. I want to thank everybody for coming out. WilsonWealth.com, the Wealth Equation Podcast.com on YouTube. Please come back next week for more good information like this. I want to thank my guests again, Mr. Jaquin Gilchrist and Miss Tarita Lewis. Thank you guys, and look forward to seeing you. And I'll probably see you if I get into government contracting for my business
absolutely. You next. You next.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
you on the list.
Yeah. I gotta help people. So thank you again. I'll see you guys on the other side. Thank you.
All right. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.